Having a true, fresh perspective is easily the best tool that you can have when you're making a record. Hello, my name is Justin Sances. I'm a professional mixing and mastering engineer. If you would like to work with me and improve on your sonics, please feel free to contact me with the email in the description below. I think one of the hardest things to do is to keep a fresh perspective when we're making music. Honestly, you can lose it all the time, and it's so difficult to understand when to push forward and when to stop. And it has everything to do with that fresh perspective. Honestly, it is the most important thing that you can do as an artist is really try to retain that as much as you possibly can. One of my favorite ways to explain perspective to an artist that I'm working with is this little thing I like to call the dirty bedroom theory. I want you to imagine that you're walking into a room in your house. I think we can all relate with this. We have a room in our house that maybe we're in a lot, and unfortunately it just becomes so messy. Maybe it's your bedroom, or maybe it's your studio, and you walk in and there's just this random chair in the corner covered with clothes, and at night it kind of freaks you out because it looks like there's a stranger in your house. There's that old shoebox that is just full with cords just in case. The whole space is just in complete disarray. And after a while you're in these spaces, you start to forget how messy it actually is. And eventually that mess just starts to accumulate and it starts to actually make sense to you. The mess, the dirtiness, everything starts to click like, oh yeah, just because this is all dirty and messed up, I guess it just works. I know exactly where my clothes are. They're right on that dirty old chair that I have. I hate to break it to you, but that dirty room is really what's holding you back, not only from progressing and growing, but it's also holding you back in your productions. You have to think about your productions this way and the way that you make music. You don't want to sit in that dirty room for too long without realizing that it's becoming dirty and that it's becoming messy and that there's things being out of place and things that just don't make sense. You can relate all these messes and all these things that are scattered around your room as creative decisions that you just didn't really realize you made because your perspective has been dulled and you're really starting to get used to how your record sounds. You can't tell the difference between an old chair and an old pile of clothes, and it's the same way as you just can't tell the difference between your vocal and your lead synth. Unfortunately, music making is the exact same way. When you're sitting around in your production for too long and you have nobody to check you into reality, you start to realize that a lot of these things that you're doing and a lot of the decisions that you're making are being misled because you don't have fresh perspective. Everything just starts to make sense. Everything is dirty, but it makes sense. And unfortunately, that's our downfall. And when we don't have anybody that's there to tell us, hey, you need to clean your room, you need to clean up this production, it's always going to stay dirty. You need that fresh perspective and you need that reset to try and help you say, okay, what can I do here to clean this up? Or hey, phone a friend, right? Bring somebody into the situation. If you brought a friend into your room, they're going to be like, man, you need to clean up. And this is exactly what we want for our productions and our music making. We want somebody to be able to tell us, hey, you really need to work on this. Hey, there is something going on here, and this really needs to get cleaned up. This brings me right to my solution. The solution is collaborating. It's working with other people. It's bringing people into your circle and really, really giving them the opportunity to show you that something needs to be fixed. Bringing perspective to the table, because when you don't have any of it, you are always, always, always going to be locked into a box that you've created. This can be somebody that you look up to or trust very, very deeply in the music making scene. This can be a friend that you trust very much who's brutally honest with you. I would be careful with that, but make sure that they are brutally honest with you when it comes to asking them for feedback and bringing them into the creative process with you, because that's what you're doing. You're allowing them to sit in on your thoughts and your creative decisions and allowing them to give you that fresh perspective that you do not have. In my personal situation, I'm being brought in a lot of the time. A lot of my artists believe that working with engineers is really something that can be very valuable inside of the creative process because we are disconnected in a lot of ways. There's creative sides to the engineering, but there's also a side where we are coming in with a complete fresh look on what you're doing in the creative process. And that is absolutely priceless. Unfortunately, in today's world, and especially in the creative space, we've been constantly told to do things on our own, to be on this island, to do everything ourselves. And I think that's got to be the worst thing that we can do as creatives. We have to collaborate. We have to get together and collaborate on ideas, because that's the only way that your perspective is going to stay fresh. Sometimes that outside opinion is the differentiator between making a hit record and just making another idea. In the early stages of my journey, I struggled with this too. I thought that I knew how to mix and I knew how to master, so everybody should just listen to me. But that's just not the case. Getting that feedback from artists and the artists that I worked with was one of the biggest pieces of my growth that I've ever had, because listening to them give me their fresh perspective on the work that I just did creates this back and forth environment that is just so synergetic, and it's amazing once you start to click with people that really understand and want to grow. I really hope that this oversimplified version of perspective has helped you in some way. I hope that you're able to get out of your shell and really ask for that feedback when you need it, and bring those collaborators in when it's time. Whether you need a vocalist to back you up, whether you need somebody to help you write songs, maybe somebody that's a musician, or someone who can actually sit down and say, okay, I understand exactly what you're trying to do here. Let me help you get to that point. I hope that for all of you, because that is how you grow, and this is how you make some of the best music of your life. 2 things we learned today. 1, you may need to clean your room. And 2, a fresh perspective is extremely important in the music making process. And I think that we can do that by working together and collaborating together. Thank you so much for listening to me today. If you would like to leave a comment, subscribe, or hit me up in the description below, I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much. Have a good one.